정했어요 모두 보고 싶었어 이도 어쩜 이렇게 시간이 안 가는지 정말.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, introduce myself. My name is Anissa Alfnedriani, the NPM 092000027. This time to fulfill even midterm tasks in English. Reading. Here, I will explain the importance of washing hands. Disease causing germs can attack you whenever and whenever. Germs can appear anywhere, whether while you are working, while you're traveling, or even at home. They can stick to the surface of things you use, or they can even stick to part of body, include your hands. The COVID-19 pandemic provides a clear reminder that washing hands is one of the simple ways to prevent the spread of the virus along with other public health measures such as maintaining physical distance, avoiding crowded places, practicing health etiquette, and preventing the spread of the virus, and wear masks everywhere and ensure better overall health outcomes. Soap washing is a simple behavior, but it has a tremendous impact on the prevention of infectious disease. Because the hands are limbs that we use to touch or things very often. So, it's not uncommon for disease causing germs to stick to the hands and cause disease. Cholera, typhoid fever, hepatitis, COVID-19, and many other types of infection. Human and animal excrement is the source of disease causing germs such as E. coli, or a salmonella. This bacteria can cause various digestive tract diseases, respiratory tract infection, and other infection. According to the Center for Disease Control or CDC, 1 gram of human feces contain 1 trillion disease causing germs. Of course, not a little bit, is it? Hence, the importance of washing your hands should be realized by many, especially in preventing various infections. Washing your hands with soap and running water is a way to eliminate germs that cause disease in your hands. This is especially helpful in preventing infection because 1. People often touch their eyes, nose, and mouth without even realizing it. Germs can enter the body through your eyes, nose, and mouth, and then make you sick. 2. Germs from dirty hands can enter food and drink when you prepare or consume them. Even germs can multiply in some types of food or drink under certain conditions and make people sick. 3. Germs from dirty hands can move to other objects, such as railing stairs, table, or toys, and then moving to other people's hands. Washing your hand with soap has been shown to reduce the risk of diarrhea and respiratory disease. However, hand washing complaints at critical times in many parts of the world is far from ideal. Therefore, it is better to start by washing your hands well and properly. Sekian, kurang lebihnya mohon maaf. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
버스 안에서 going 이불 속에서 going going은 언제나 너에게 going going.
Hi Mr. John and hi everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Desiree Safitri from University of Indonesia Jakarta with NPM 092000056. My goal in making this video is to provide information, especially for Indonesian people, about the importance of preventing stunting during pregnancy. Let's see the video. Recently, stunting has been hotly discussed by many people, especially mothers. According to WHO, stunting is a disorder of child growth and development caused by a lack of nutrition, infection, or inadequate stimulation. The number of stunting supports in Indonesia according to the 2018 Riscardes result continues to decline, but stunting prevention steps really need to be done. What are the ways? 1. Meet nutritional needs since pregnancy. The action that is relevantly effective to prevent stunting in children is to always fulfill nutrition from the time of pregnancy. The Millennium Challenge account Indonesia Health Institute recommends that mothers who are pregnant always consume healthy, nutritious food and supplement on the advice of a doctor. In addition, women who are undergoing the process of pregnancy should also routinely have their health checked by a doctor or a midwife. 2. Give exclusive breastfeeding until the baby is 6 months old. Veronika Serebum, a nutritionist from the University of Hohenheim, Germany, stated the breast milk has the potential of reduce the chance of stunting in children because of the micro and macronutrients. Therefore, mothers are advised to continue to provide exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and their baby. Whey and colostrum proteins found in mother milks are also considered capable of boosting the baby immune system, which is very vulnerable. 3. Accompany exclusive breastfeeding with healthy solid. When the baby reaches at the age of 6 months and over, the mother can already provide complementary foods or MPAC. In this case, make sure the select food can fulfill the micro and macro nutrients which previously always come from breast milk to prevent stunting. WHO also recommends fortification or adding nutrition to food. On the other hand, mothers should be careful with determining these additional products. Consult a doctor first. 4. Continue to monitor the growth and development of children. Parents need to continue to monitor their children's growth and development, especially from the children's height and weight. Take your little or regularly to posyandu or special children clinics. The way it will be a reserve for mother to know the early symptoms, the disorder, and how to treat it. 5. Always keep the environment clean. As is now, children are very vulnerable to disease, especially if the environment around them is dirty. This factor also incredibly increases the chance of stunting. A study conducted at Harvard Child School stated that diarrhea is dirty factor that cause these health problems. Meanwhile, one of the triggers for diarrhea comes from exposure to dirt that enters the human body. We hope that this information will help mothers prevent stunting and improve the quality of their children's health. I think that's all my information about preventing stunting during pregnancy. I hope it is useful for you all. I'm sorry for any words or behavior that unpleasing your heart. Thank you very much for the occasion and your kind attention. Goodbye.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, introduce myself. My name is Siti Sari Wulandari with NPM 092006x50 from 6A of Nursing Study Program. Here, I will make a video about anemia and prevention of anemia to fulfill midterm exam scores for English course. I will immediately discuss the meaning from anemia. Anemia is a state of decreased hemoglobin levels, hematocrit, and red blood cell count below normal set values. Conditions Fa deficiency is one of the cause of anemia, but not the only cause of anemia. The next, anemia etiology. According to Sukarti 2011, the causes of anemia are 1. In general Indonesian society, including young women, is more eat lots of plant foods that are rich in iron little compared to animal food. So, the body need for iron is not met. 2. Young women usually want to appear slim, so this is limiting food supply. And 3. Teenage girls experience menstruation every month, so they lose their substance, so the need for more iron than men. Next, factors of anemia. In young women, many medical factors can cause anemia. Among others include: first, menstruation. One of the factors that trigger anemia is the condition of the cycle abnormal. Menstruation lost a lot of blood when menstruation is thought to cause anemia. Mariana and Bambang, 2013. Almost all women have experienced excessive bleeding during menstruation. Even some women have to experience this every month. 2. Nutritional status. Anemia is caused by a lack of iron in the body, so the need for iron for erythropoiesis is not enough, characteristic by a hypochromic red blood cell appearance necrotic. Serum iron level and transferrin saturation decrease will play an important role in blending total iron elevation and iron stores in the bone marrow, and elsewhere very little or none at all. And the next, signs and symptoms of anemia. According to Provarawati 2011, signs of anemia in adult scans. Prince is 1. Lethargic, weak, tired, and weak. 2. Often complaints of dizziness and dizzy eyes. And 3. Further symptoms are eyelids, lips, tongue, skin, and palm turn pale. And the next, prevention according to Altmaier 2011. How to prevent and treat anemia is: 1. Increase consumption of nutrition food. 2. Eat foods that contain lots of iron from the ingredients: animal foods, meat, fish, chicken, liver, and eggs. And ingredient plant foods, dark green, vegetable, and legumes. And 3. Eat lots of vegetables and fruits. Contains vitamin C, catuclifos, cassavas, liver spinach, guava, tomatoes, orange, and pineapple. Are very beneficial for increase the absorption of iron in the intestine. Well, that's a little explanation about anemia. Sorry if there are wrong words in delivering the material. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello everyone, my name is Firda Kamal Julianti, NPM 092000034. I will explain about appendicitis. What is appendicitis? Appendicitis is inflammation of the appendix, a finger-shaped pouch that projects from your colon on the lower right side of your abdomen. Appendicitis causes pain in your right abdomen. However, in most people, pain begins around the navel and the mouth. As inflammation worsens, appendicitis pain typically increases and eventually becomes severe. Anyone can develop appendicitis, most often if caused in people between the ages of 10 and 30. Standard treatment is surgical removal of the appendix. Signs and symptoms of appendicitis might include sudden pain that begins on the right side of the lower abdomen, sudden pain that begins around your navel and often shifts to your lower right abdomen. Pain worsens if you couch, walk, or make other jarring movement. Nausea and vomiting, loss of the appetite, lower grade fever that might worsen as the illness progresses, constipation or diarrhea, abdominal bloating, and night flatulence. A blockage in the lining of the appendix that results in infection is the likely cause of appendicitis. The bacteria multiply rapidly, causing the appendix to become inflamed, swollen, and filled with pus. If not treated promptly, the appendix can rupture. Complication of the appendicitis ini can cause serious complications such as 1. A ruptured appendix, 2. A pocket of pus that form in the abdomen. Yeah, it is reading text for me, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Appendicitis is an acute swelling of the appendix. It can happen at any stage in life, but often occurs in childhood or early adulthood. Symptoms can include a loss of appetite, nausea, fever, and a pain in the lower back or abdomen. The appendix is a small tube attached to the large intestine. It naturally contains bacteria that live in the gut. If it gets blocked by things like feces, a foreign body, or inflammation, the bacteria multiply with nowhere to go, causing swelling and pain. If left untreated, the appendix can burst. This is a life-threatening medical emergency, so it is important to seek treatment as soon as symptoms appear. Surgery to remove the appendix is the most common treatment. Outcomes are generally good, and you can expect to recover within a couple of weeks.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, introduce myself. My name is Nesinta Suci Melati, NVM 09200000038. Here I will explain about anemia to fulfill the English launch assessment. Anemia is a blood disorder in which the blood has a reduced ability to carry oxygen due to a lower than normal number of red blood cells. When anemia comes on slowly, the symptoms are often vague, such as tiredness, weakness, shortness of breath, headache, and a reduced ability to exercise. When anemia is acute, symptoms might include confusion, feeling like one is going to pass out, loss of consciousness, and increased thirst. Anemia must be significant before a person becomes noticeably pale. Symptoms of anemia depend on how quickly hemoglobin decreases. Additional symptoms may occur depending on the underlying cause. Proliferative anemia can increase the risk of needing a blood transfusion following surgery. Anemia can be temporary or long-term and can range from mild to severe. Anemia can be caused blood loss, decreased red blood cell production, and increased red blood cell breakdown. Cause of bleeding include bleeding due to inflammation of the stomach or intestines, bleeding for surgery, serious injury, or blood donation. Cause of decreased production include iron deficiency thalassemia, and a number of bone marrow tumors. Cause of increased breakdown include genetic disorders such as sickle cell anemia, infections such as malaria, and certain autoimmune disease. Anemia can also be classified based on the size of the red blood cell and amount of hemoglobin in each cell. If the cells are small, it is called microtic anemia. If they are large, it is called microtic anemia, and if they are normal size, it is called normotic anemia. The diagnosis of anemia in men is based on a hemoglobin of less than 130 to 140. In women, it is less than 120 to 130. Further testing is then required to determine the cause. That is all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello everyone, my name is Anis Juliana, NPM 09200000035. I will read the text entitled Stress Management, Healthy Living with Stress. We must have felt stress wherever the problem, especially as humans who live the dimensions of life. Stress is a change in the body reaction when faced with a new threat, pressure, or situation. Cause of stress: 1. Dysmenorrheans family. 2. Traumatizing events. 3. Long-term illness. 4. Economic disputes. 5. Unsafe environments such as conflict areas. 6. Workload. 7. Adverse events such as divorce or layoff. Next, signs of stress. 1. Feeling too emotional. 2. Sensitive or more irritable. 3. Mood swing. 4. Lost direction and purpose in life. 5. Self-isolation, not confident, lonely, and desperate, withdrawing from the social environment. 7. Difficulty focusing and concentrating. 8. The body feels stiff, wrestling, excess. 9. It's hard to think positively or tend to look at things from the negative side. 10. Lack of enthusiasm or lack of energy. How to manage stress? Number 1. Do a fun activity. Number 2. Express complaint. Number 3. Apply healthy lifestyle. And let's focus on the present.
Hello everyone, my name is Taslim Hidayati and PM 09200000049. And here I will explain education to pregnant women. Pregnancy is the most awaited thing by many married couples, of course. Every family wants the baby to be conceived, healthy always, and our process runs smoothly until the day of delivery. Here are some tips for pregnant and breastfeeding mothers. 1. Good hygiene can prevent diarrhea and other diseases. Use clean utensils and store food in a clean place. 2. Cook meat first and eggs until cooked. 3. Wash vegetables. Cook for a while and add immediately to maintain their contraction. Number 4. Wash raw fruits and vegetables before eating. Number 5. Wash hand with soap before preparing food and after going to the toilet and cleaning up baby waste. And another important tip, number 1, get plenty of rest during the first 3 months of pregnancy and the first month after giving birth. Number 2, to prevent the disturbance of mosquitoes of insects, it is better to use a mosquito net when sleeping. Number 4, take the worming medication to treat intestinal worms and prevent anemia. Number 4, don't drink alcohol, do drugs, or smoke. Okay, thank you for watching.
Hello, Mr. Jonis Bratton. Let me introduce myself. My name is Hervanio Nicolase. My NPM is 0920000041. Here I want to explain the importance of emergency care. Okay, let's start it. Emergency care is an essential part of the health system and serves as the first point of contact for many around the world, especially when there are logistical or financial barriers to health care access. People might present for care only when symptomatic, with a cold illness or injury. In most cases, the ill and injured present to frontline providers responsible for the care of both children and adults with medical, surgical, and obstetric emergencies, including injuries, communicable and non-communicable disease, and complications of pregnancy. Prioritizing an integrated approach to early recognition and resuscitation substantially reduces the morbidity and mortality associated with all of these conditions. Pre-hospital and facility-based emergency care is a high impact and cost-effective form of secondary prevention. Additionally, disease surveillance at facilities delivering emergency care is essential to good primary prevention and outbreak response. The Disease Control Priorities Project estimates that nearly half of deaths and over a third of disability in low and middle income countries could be addressed by the implementation of effective emergency care. The World Health Assembly has called on member states to prioritize the establishment of integrated emergency and trauma care system. Emergency, trauma, and acute care service are an essential part of universal health coverage. WHO is dedicated to achieving universal access to emergency care for all persons. All around the world, acutely ill and injured people seek care every day. Frontline providers manage children and adults with medical, surgical, and obstetric emergencies, including injuries and infection, heart attack and strokes, asthma, and acute complications of pregnancy. Prioritizing an integrated approach to early recognition and resuscitation reduces the impact of all disease conditions. WHO Emergency, Trauma, and Acute Care Program is dedicated to strengthening the emergency care system that serves as the first point of contact with the health system for so much of the world, and to supporting the development of quality, timely emergency care accessible to all. Okay, maybe that's all I can explain about the importance of emergency care. I hope you like it. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hello everyone, my name is Chika Pramestia Yunda. I'm from Universitas Indonesia Maju, NPM 092000052. I want to talk about anxiety disorder. What is an anxiety disorder? Anxiety disorder is a type of mental health condition. If you have anxiety disorder, you may respond to certain things and situations with fear and dread. You may also experience physical signs of anxiety, such as a pounding heart and sweating. Is it normal to have some anxiety? You may feel anxious or nervous if you have to tackle a problem at work. Go to an interview, take a test, or make an important decision, and anxiety can even be beneficial. For example, anxiety helps us notice dangerous situations and focus in attention, so we stay safe. But an anxiety disorder gets beyond the regular nervous and slight fear you may feel from time to time. Anxiety disorder happens when anxiety interferes with your ability to function. You often overnight when sometimes triggers your emotion, or you can control your response to situation. Anxiety disorder can make it difficult to get through the day. Fortunately, there are several effective treatments for anxiety disorder. A mix of genetic and environmental factors can raise a person's risk of developing anxiety disorders. You may be at higher risk if you have or had certain personality traits such as shyness of behavioral inhibition, feeling uncomfortable with avoiding unfamiliar people, situation, or environments. Stressful or traumatic event early childhood or adulthood. Family story of anxiety of other mental health condition. Certain physical condition including typhoid problems and heart. Anxiety disorder more often in women. Researchers are still studying why that happens. It may come from women's hormones, especially those that fluctuate throughout the month. The hormone testosterone may play a role to men have more, and it may is anxiety. It's also possible that women are less likely to seek treatment, so the anxiety worsens. And then, what is separation anxiety disorder? This condition mostly happens to children or teens who may worry about being away from their parents. Children with separation anxiety disorder may fear that their parents will be hurt in some way or not come back as promised. It happens a lot in preschoolers, but older child and adults who experience a stressful event may have separation anxiety disorder as well. What are the symptoms of an anxiety disorder? Symptoms vary depending on the type of anxiety disorder you have. General symptoms of an anxiety disorder include physical symptoms, cold or sweaty hands, dry mouth, heart palpitation, nausea, numbness or tingling in hands or feet, muscle tension, shortness of breath. And mental symptoms, any feeling panic, fear, uneasiness, nightmares, repeat thought or flashback of traumatic experience, uncomfortable, obsessive thought. Behavioral symptoms, any inability to be still and calm, ritualistic behaviors such as washing hands, repeat, and trouble sleeping. How are anxiety disorder diagnosed? If you have symptoms of anxiety disorder, talk to your health provider. They all start with a complete medical history and physical examination. There are no lab tests or scans that can diagnose anxiety disorder, but your provider may run some of these tests to rule out physical condition that may be causing symptoms. And the last, how are anxiety disorder treated? Anxiety disorder is like any other health problem. There requires treatment. You can will it away. Is it not a matter of self-discipline or attitude? Researchers have made a lot of progress in the last few decades in treating mental health conditions. Your healthcare provider will tailor a treatment plan that works to you. Your plan may combine medicines and physical therapy. So, don't worry whatever you are experiencing, there must be a way out. Thank you for attention, and I hope this helpful, and bye-bye.
Hello Mr. John, my name is Cutia Ramadanti and PM 092000031 from nursing class 6A. I will read a health issue on violence and mental health taken from the book The State of the World Children 2021 with the title On My Mind, Promote, Protect, and Caring for Children's Mental Health by UNICEF. Violence and mental health. Tragically, every year, over 1 billion children aged 12 to 17 are estimated to be exposed to interpersonal violence with mental health consequences that include depression, anxiety, suicide, and behavior and social problems. Multiple forms of violence often co-occur in the same family, and children's exposure to both violent discipline and violent agents their mothers increases their risk of violence in adulthood, either as victims or as perpetrators. Therefore, preventing exposure to violence in childhood is essential to promoting mental health. This can be exercised done. However, evidence points to critical entry points for intervention. For example, identifying pregnant women at risk of intimate partner violence, including pregnant adolescents, and screening for postnatal depression has effectively identified mothers and children at risk. Responding with gender-sensitive caregiver support for new and young parents can both promote early childhood development and prevent violence against children and women. Health service also offer a critical entry point to identify children and their caregivers who may be experiencing or perpetrating violence. Indeed, the World Health Organization or WHO strongly recommends that healthcare providers consider exposure to violence when assessing children's health, especially when facing conditions that may be caused or complicated by maltreatment. By intervening, appropriate care can be provided and referrals made to support service action that can prevent future harm. That's all for reading text about violence and mental health. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Niken Ananda Siswaya. I want to reading about varicose veins. What varicose veins? Varicose veins are twisted and large veins. In the vein that is close to the skin surface can become varicose. Varicose veins most commonly affect the veins in the legs. That because standing and walking increase the pressure in the veins of the lower body. And the next risk factor. The following can increase the risk of developing varicose veins. Number 1, age. Number 2, sex. Women are likely to develop the condition. Number 3, pregnancy. Number 4, obesity. The same measure that treat the discomfort from varicose veins can help prevent them. Try the following. Number 1, avoiding high heels and tight hosiery. Number 2, changing your sitting or standing position regularly. Number 3, eating a high fiber, low salt diet. Number 4, raising your legs when sitting or lying down. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello Mr. Jonas Blatan. Introduce myself. My name is Hanita Sapsari. My NPM 092000000013. I want to reading the article Mental Health. Enjoy. Concept in mental health. Mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stress of life, release their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. It is integral component of health and well-being that underpins our individual and collective abilities to make decisions, build relationships, and shape the world we live in. Mental health is a basic human right, and it is crucial to personal, community, and socio-economic development. Mental health is more than the absence of mental disorders. It exists on a complex continuum which is experienced differently from one person to the next, with varying degrees of difficulty and distress and potentially very different social and clinical outcomes. Mental health conditions include mental disorders and psychosocial disabilities, as well as other mental states associated with significant distress, impairment in functioning, or risk of self-harm. People with mental health conditions are more likely to experience lower level of mental well-being, but this is not always or not necessarily the case. Determinants of mental health throughout our life. Multi-type individual, social, and structural determinants may combine to protect or undermine our mental health and shift our position on the mental health continuum. Individual physiological and biological factors such as emotional skill, substance use, and genetic can make people more vulnerable to mental health problems. Exposure, the unfavorable social, economic, geopolitical, and environmental circumstances include poverty, violence, inequality, and F- F- environmental deprivation also increase people's risk of experiencing mental health condition. Risks can manifest themselves at all stages of life, but those that occur during developmentally sensitive periods, especially early childhood, are particularly detrimental. For example, harsh parenting and physical punishment is known to undermine child health, and bullying is a leading risk factor for mental health conditions. Protective factors similarly exert throughout our life and serve to strengthen resilience. They include our individual social and emotional skill and attributes, as well as positive social interaction, quality education, decent work, safe neighborhoods, and community cohesion, among others. Mental health risks and protective factors can be found in society at different scales. Local threats like risks for individuals, families, and community. Global threats heighten risks for world population and include economics, downturn, disease outbreaks, humanitarian emergency, and forced displacement, and the growing climate crisis. Age, single rights, and protective factor has only limited predictive stage. Most people do not develop a mental health condition despite exposure to a risk factor, and many people with no risk factor still develop a mental health condition. Nonetheless, the interesting determinants of mental health serve to and or undermine mental health care and treatment. In the context of national efforts to strengthen mental health, it is vital to not only protect and promote the mental well-being of all, but also to address the needs of people with mental health conditions. This should be done through community-based mental health care, which is more accessible and accessible than institutional care. Help prevent human rights violation and delivers better recovery outcomes for people with mental health condition. Community-based mental health care should be provided through a network of interlinked services that comprise one, mental health services that are integrated in general healthcare, typical in general health hospital, and through test sharing with non-specialist care providers in primary healthcare. Two, community mental health service that may involve community mental health counters and teams, psychosocial rehabilitation, peer support and support living service, and three, service then deliver mental health care in social service and non-health setting, such as child protecting, school and service, and prison. The first care gap for common mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety. Mental countries must also find innovative ways to diversify and scale up care for these conditions. For example, through non-specialist psychological counseling or digital self-help.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Adela Aprilia, NPM 09200016. I will explain about fever. Fever is an increase in body temperature to more than 38 degrees Celsius. This condition can either the fragrance on certain designs or concentration in the body. Fever can happen to anyone from babies to adults. Fever generally occurs as a reaction of the immune system in fighting infection with germs that cause disease. Some diseases that often cause fever are flu, some throat and rhinitis infection. Type 4 fever. Mild fever occurs when body temperature rises to 38 degrees Celsius. Moderate fever if the temperature reaches 39 degrees Celsius. High grade fever if the body temperature is 39 degrees Celsius or more. And hyperexia if the temperature is above 1 degree Celsius. Symptoms and cause of fever. Fever is characterized by an increase in body temperature to more than 38 Celsius. Normal body temperature ranges from 36 Celsius to 37 Celsius. Fever is a symptom of certain condition of disease. Usually, fever will be accompanied by other symptoms of the underlying condition. Some of these accompanying symptoms are 1. Headache, 2. Sweating, 3. Chills, 4. Weak, 5. Muscle aches, and loss of appetite. Treatment and prevention. Fever treatment is adjusted to the cause. In fever cause by prevention, the doctor will give medication such as antiviral drugs, antibiotic drugs, and antifungal medication. Fever can cause the discomfort This can be overcome by resting and drinking enough water, as well as taking fever reducing doses of fever medications, for example paracetamol. When eye fever occurs, it is recommended to drink lots of water and compress warm water on the folds of the body. Thank you for watching.
Good evening, sir. Let me introduce myself. My name is Agung Ramdhani. My NPM 0920000005. I'm reading about tuberculosis in children. Tuberculosis is a disease caused the bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis which attack the lungs. Tuberculosis can not only be suffered by adults, but also by children. This disease mainly attack the lungs, but can also affect other organs, such as the lining of the brain, intestines, lymph nodes, kidneys, bones, and skin. Tuberculosis is transmitted through the air from tuberculosis patient to people around them. Through expressions of the patient saliva when coughing, talking, or sneezing without covering the mouth and nose, or without wearing a mask. Parents are expected to be vigilant and know the various symptoms that appear when their child has tuberculosis. In general, the symptoms of tuberculosis can appear physically in a child, such as children with weeks on recurring with causes the temperature in generally not high or cold for more than 2 weeks and recurring without cause. The temperature in generally not high or cold for more than 2 weeks. That is getting worse over time, which does not improve with antibiotic. Body limp or legacy should not actively playing. The apprehension of lump in the glands is next. Shallower, unbreathed, and grown tuberculosis treatment. Diagnosing tuberculosis in children is slightly different from adult. Examination of sputum in adult is usually with sputum, but when examining sputum in children is usually quite difficult and the results are negative. There is tuberculin abscess or chest blossom. Examination of child tuberculosis carried about by an assessment of symptom scoring and supporting examination. Tuberculosis in children can be cured with proper tuberculosis treatment. If the medicine is not taken in duplicated and complete manner, there is a risk of developing drug-resistant tuberculosis. There are several efforts that can be made to prevent TB transmission in children, namely BCG vaccination in newborn, provision of balanced nutrition intakes to make children immunity find the source of transmission. Is there anyone who is sick with tuberculosis living in the same house or who is close contact with children? People who are sick with tuberculosis must receive adequate and complete tuberculosis treatment. Tuberculosis prevention therapy for children who are in contact with active tuberculosis patients at home. Try to keep the home or living environment clean. Knock down and make sure sunlight can enter the house. Thank you for your attention. Good evening, sir.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Introduce myself. My name is Anisha Lina, NPM 09200000026. Here I will discuss how important nutrition is for health. It is important to eat a wide range of food in order to stay healthy. Nutrition is the science that deals with food and how the body uses it. There are 6 main groups of nutrition: protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, mineral, and water. The energy that food gives you is measured in kilocalories or 1000 calories. A calorie is an energy that is needed to raise the temperature of water by 1 degree Celsius. In developing countries, deficiency disease arises when people do not get the right nutrition. Kwashiorkor is a disease that occurs if your body doesn't get enough proteins. Marasmus occurs in young children who don't get enough calories every day. They become weak, underweight, and often the disease often occurs if you suffer from a lack of vitamins. Not enough vitamin D, for example, may lead to bone illness. In industrialized countries, people often suffer from eating too much fat and cholesterol in your body can lead to heart disease, obesity, and cancer. High cholesterol levels may make your arteries narrow. The result might be high blood pressure, a heart attack, or a stroke. That's all from me. More or less apologies. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone. My name is Habibah Hanum Harahap, NPM 09200000040. In this video, I want to reading about human immunodeficiency virus and acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. HIV and AIDS. The immune system normally provides protection against infection disease. The importance of the immune system can be seen in diseases in which the immune system does not function properly. One of the most dangerous and lethal of this disease is AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, in which the immune system loses its ability to fight off pathogens and cancers. AIDS was recognized as a disease in 1984. Since then, it has killed more than 22 million people worldwide. AIDS results from infection by the human immunodeficiency virus or HIV. Once HIV has entered the bloodstream, HIV joins to a receptor protein called CD4 on the surface of the stem cells. To enter a cell, HIV must also join itself to a protein or co-receptor, macrophage, or often the first cells of the immune system infected with HIV. The virus reproduces inside the macrophage and new viruses are created. This process does not destroy the macrophage. Viral replication of HIV results in many mutations. Eventually, a mutation may enable the virus to recognize other co-receptors, such as formed on T cells. After release from macrophage, HIV enters T cells. After viral replication, the new viruses are released from the T cells and the process is repeated. Unlike macrophage, T cells are destroyed. Eventually, HIV kills enough T cells to hurt the immune system, leading to AIDS. People who suffer from HIV then to through 3 phases in infection. First phase. Phase first of HIV infection is called a symptomatic stage because there are almost no symptoms. However, the amount of virus increases due to replication. The immune system begins an attack. and plasma cell make antibody to fight the virus. However, it may take several weeks for antibody to become large enough to result in a positive HIV test. HIV-infected people may feel well during phase 1 but can still infect other people. This phase can last for up to 10 years. Second phase, the beginning of symptoms mark the start of the second phase. B cells continue to make a large amount of antibody against HIV. However, the number of T cells drop and the virus continue to replicate. As the immune system fails, lymph glands become swollen and other symptoms such as fatigue, weight loss, fever, or diarrhea develop. Some people may notice mental change such as forgetfulness and abnormal thinking patterns. Third phase. In phase 3, the number of T cells drops so low that they can stimulate B cells to fight invaders. As a consequence, the amount anti-HIV antibody fails and HIV level rise dramatically. The virus continues destroying the few T cells remaining. HIV is transmitted by transfer of antibody, foods containing HIV or HIV-infected cell. The most common means of infection is sexual contact with an infected person. The second most common means is the use of needles that have been contaminated. HIV can also be transmitted from an infected mother from her infant before, of during birth, or through breastfeeding. HIV is not transmitted through the air, in water, on toilet seat, or through incest fetus. Thank you for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Guys, my name is Hasan Alatas. Right now, I want to present to you my reading video about scavenging on garbage dump to survive. Okay, let's go. Children who work on garbage dump may find themselves in a very serious situation. First, they risk health problem because they work in unsanitary areas. Rodents, flies, and other insect pests roam around the garbage dump and they carry disease. The dumps become the breeding ground for germs and viruses. Consequently, these child workers may suffer illness from gastrointestinal, dermatological, and respiratory problems. Second, they risk injuries because of sharp objects, such as broken glass, nails, or sirens that are in the piles of rubbish. While they are picking recyclable materials, they don't wear any boots and gloves for protection. Most of them handle raw waste wearing only shorts, flip-flops, and t-shirt. As a result, they are exposed to serious cuts from sharp material. Third, the children may risk their life because of trash collapses. If the mountain of trash collapses, the children might not be able to escape and be buried under tons of waste. In brief, children who work on garbage dump risk their health, safety, and worse, their life. Thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. The Honorable Mr. Johannes Belatan SS MPD as a lecturer in this course. Introduce myself. My name is Ibrahim Sahasika with MPM 09200000024, Bachelor of Nursing Study Program. Here I will explain about the meaning of diabetes mellitus. My goal in making this video is to fulfill the midterm exam scores in English course. Let's just get into the material. Definition of diabetes mellitus. Diabetes or diabetes, high blood sugar, is a chronic, long-term disease that you need to be aware of. The main sign of this disease is an increase in blood sugar level beyond normal values. Diabetes occurs when the sufferer's body is no longer able to take sugar into cell and use it as energy. This condition ultimately results in a buildup of extra sugar in the body's bloodstream. Diabetes that is not well controlled can have serious consequences, causing damage to various organs and tissues of the body. Examples of organs such as the heart, kidneys, eyes, and nerves. There are two main types of diabetes, namely type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Cause of diabetes mellitus. Normal blood sugar level are less than 100 mg or dl. If the blood sugar level reach 100 until 125 mg or dl, it means that you are in prediabetes. Meanwhile, blood sugar levels that reach 126 mg or dl and above are classified as diabetes. High blood sugar level are known as hyperglycemia. Basically, hyperglycemia is a condition when blood sugar level increase or are excessive. Meanwhile, diabetes is a disease that is mostly affected by hyperglycemia. Risk factor for high blood sugar. There are several risk factors for type 1 diabetes, including